Athens, the city where democracy was born, where philosophers debated the meaning of existence, and where empires rose and fell. For thousands of years, it stood as a symbol of civilization itself. But in the modern era, that same city became something else entirely, a monument to struggle, survival, and shattered dreams. Once the heart of Europe's glory, Athens became its cautionary tale. The city that gave the world ideas, art, and architecture fell into chaos, its streets echoing not with triumph, but with anger. The financial crisis that hit Greece didn't just break its economy, it broke its spirit. But out of that collapse, something unexpected began to rise. A plan so bold it almost sounds like fiction. An $8 billion mega-project that could rewrite the nation's future. They call it the Ellinikon, and it's Greece's most ambitious attempt yet to reclaim its place among the world's great powers. It's not just another skyscraper or flashy tourist attraction. It's a resurrection. A bet that Athens can rise again, this time as Europe's answer to Dubai. But can a country that was once drowning in debt really compete with the richest city on Earth? Or is this glittering dream destined to collapse under its own weight? This is Greece's greatest gamble. A city, struggling to breathe. To understand why the Ellinikon exists, you have to look at Athens itself, a city that seems forever caught between the ancient and the modern. From above, Athens looks like a sea of concrete, endless white rooftops spilling over hills, packed tighter than anywhere else in Europe. Only 11% of the city's surface is covered by trees, one of the lowest rates in the entire continent. For most of the year, the sun scorches the city relentlessly. In 2007, Athens recorded a record-breaking 44.8 degrees Celsius, one of the highest temperatures ever seen in Europe. And when wildfires tore through the surrounding mountains, a quarter of the city's trees were lost in just 6 years. The mayor has promised to plant 25,000 new trees in 5 years, but those numbers barely touch the surface. The problem isn't just the heat, it's the suffocation. Athens was never built to handle 3 million people. When Greece won its independence in the 1800s, the city was home to just 4,000 residents. But population explosion, unplanned construction, and decades of economic pressure turned it into an urban labyrinth with no room to grow and no space to breathe. The result? A city that feels like it's frozen in time, modern yet crumbling, vibrant yet exhausted. But hidden in plain sight, at the city's southern edge, was a forgotten opportunity. The land that time forgot. For decades, a massive stretch of land lay untouched. 6.2 square kilometers of prime real estate overlooking the Aegean Sea. It was once home to Athens' international airport, Ellinikon, which served as Greece's aviation gateway for decades until it shut down in 2001. Then, nothing. For a while, parts of the area were used for the 2004 Olympic Games. Later, during the refugee crisis, it became temporary housing for displaced families. But for nearly 2 decades, the site sat mostly abandoned. A ghost of the past surrounded by one of Europe's busiest urban zones. This was prime land, sitting by the beach, connected by metro, and just a short drive from the port of Piraeus and the city center. Yet no one could agree on what to do with it. In 2005, Greece held an international competition. More than 300 teams of architects submitted designs to turn the area into a park. It was supposed to be the start of something new. But then, the unthinkable happened. The fall. In 2008, the global financial crisis hit Greece like a wrecking ball. Within months, the country's fragile economy imploded. Greece's debt ballooned to $333 billion. Unemployment soared past 27%, and property values dropped by half. Families lost their homes, pensions vanished, and the country teetered on the edge of bankruptcy. What began as an economic crisis became an existential one. Protests filled the streets, international lenders took control of the budget, and for years Greece was painted as Europe's failure, a nation living beyond its means. In that chaos, the Ellinikon was forgotten. Investors pulled out. Plans were shelved. The idea of building a futuristic neighborhood seemed laughable when people couldn't even pay their rent. But sometimes, desperation creates the space for reinvention, a dream. Revived by 2014, Greece was starting to breathe again. Barely. That's when Lambda Development, one of the country's biggest real estate firms, stepped in. Lambda didn't just want to build houses. They wanted to build hope. In the middle of a still struggling economy, they proposed reviving the Ellinikon, Not as a park, not as an Olympic relic, but as an entirely new city. A city within a city. But bureaucracy in Greece is legendary. It took 7 years for all the legal clearances, environmental studies, and financial guarantees to finally align. Only in 2021, 2 decades after the airport closed, did construction officially begin. By then, the world had changed. Dubai had become a symbol of what ambition could build. The Gulf cities were competing to see who could outdo the other in luxury and spectacle. For Greece, it wasn't about imitation. It was about transformation, using its heritage to create something the world hadn't seen before. A green megacity born from history, not oil, the vision. So what exactly is the Ellinikon? At its core, it's a $8 billion redevelopment covering 6.2 square kilometers, roughly the size of Monaco. But instead of filling it with endless skyscrapers, Greece decided to do something different. The Ellinikon will be 44% greener than the rest of the Athens metro area, featuring 2.5 square kilometers of parkland, nearly 75% the size of Central Park in New York. That includes 31,000 trees, over 1 million Mediterranean plants, and dozens of lakes, trails, and gardens. Among the greenery, more than 6,500 apartments will rise, from luxury beachfront villas to high-rise penthouses. The centerpiece, however, will be the Riviera Tower, Greece's first true skyscraper. At 200 meters, it will be the tallest building in the Mediterranean. All 115 residences inside the tower have already sold out, at an average price of $3.7 million each. The project will also include Greece's largest shopping mall, a Hard Rock casino resort costing $1.5 billion, a marina, schools, sports facilities, and a 1.5-kilometer private beach on the world-famous Athenian Riviera. It's a master plan that aims to redefine Athens, not by erasing its past, but by reshaping its future, the comeback. When construction began, skeptics called it a fantasy. But the Ellinikon has been proving them wrong, one floor at a time. As of now, the Riviera Tower has already reached 20% of its final height, rising 1 floor every 5 days. The surrounding commercial hub, which will host corporate offices and retail spaces, has already leased 2/3 of its available space. The first phase of the project, including the tower, park, and main commercial areas, is set to be completed by 2026. The full development is expected by 2037, and it's already projected to boost Greece's GDP by 2.4%. To put that in perspective, this single project could contribute more to Greece's economy than some of its entire industrial sectors. It's expected to bring 85,000 new jobs, both direct and indirect, and inject billions in foreign investment. For a country that once faced total economic collapse, that's not just progress, that's redemption, the rivalry. But here's the real question. Can Greece really compete with Dubai? Dubai has oil wealth, tax-free investment, and limitless ambition. It built the world's tallest tower, the largest mall, artificial islands shaped like palm trees. It even made indoor snow in the desert. Greece can't play that game. It doesn't have oil money or tax havens. What it has is something Dubai can't replicate: soul. The Ellinikon isn't trying to outshine Dubai with excess. It's offering something different. A European luxury experience that's sustainable, authentic, and rooted in history. It's an alternative to Dubai's hyper-modern spectacle, one that's closer, greener, and more human. From Paris or London, Athens is just a 3-hour flight away, a short escape rather than an expedition. And while Dubai's landscape is defined by glass and sand, the Ellinikon will rise from the blue waters of the Aegean, surrounded by ancient culture, cuisine, and coastlines that money can't manufacture. Even tourism experts believe it will change the game. Greece currently attracts around 6.4 million visitors a year to Athens. Once the Ellinikon is complete, that number is expected to jump by 1 million more annually, a 15% increase. For a country where tourism makes up nearly 20% of GDP, that's massive, the human factor. But the Ellinikon isn't just a project for tourists or millionaires. It's reshaping how Greece sees itself. For years, the country's youth watched opportunities vanish. Brain drain became a crisis, with thousands leaving for better jobs abroad. The Ellinikon represents a promise that innovation and opportunity can exist here, at home. Already, it's drawing talent from around the world. Architects, engineers, and designers working to redefine urban life. The Ellinikon Experience Park, which opened as a preview, has already attracted over 3 million visitors in just 3 years, offering immersive exhibits that showcase what the full project will become. And in Little Athens, a residential district nestled between the sea and the Central Park, over 60% of the 1,100 planned homes have already been reserved, nearly half by international buyers. Many of them are attracted by Greece's Golden Visa program, granting EU residency to investors who spend over $500,000. To those buyers, the Ellinikon isn't just real estate. It's a statement that Greece's comeback story is real, and they want to be part of it, the skeptics. Of course, not everyone is convinced. Critics argue the project is too focused on luxury, too disconnected from the realities of ordinary Greeks still struggling with high prices and limited housing. They fear it will turn into an elite enclave, a bubble of wealth surrounded by a struggling city. Others see it differently. They view the Ellinikon as a catalyst, a spark that could ignite further growth across Greece's economy, attract new investors, and inspire confidence in the nation's recovery. In a way, both sides are right. The Ellinikon is both a gamble and a message. It says that Greece refuses to be defined by its past mistakes, that it's ready to rebuild, smarter, greener, and grander than before. Rebirth of a nation. When you walk through Athens today, you can still see the scars of the crisis. Empty storefronts, faded signs, remnants of a decade when everything seemed lost. But you can also see cranes on the horizon, foundations being poured, and the sound of machines cutting through stone. The sound of a city being reborn. For Greece, the Ellinikon isn't just a construction site. It's a metaphor. A nation once buried in debt is rising again, not through bailout packages or foreign aid, but through vision and persistence. By 2037, the Ellinikon could stand as one of Europe's most iconic redevelopments, a living, breathing symbol of recovery. But like all great projects, its legacy will depend on what Greece does next. Will it become Europe's next great luxury hub, a sustainable rival to Dubai? Or will it remain an isolated experiment, a bright, glittering dream surrounded by old problems? No one can say for sure. But one thing is undeniable. Athens is changing. The city that once defined civilization is trying to define it again. Not through philosophy this time, but through design, ambition, and resilience. And perhaps that's fitting. Because in many ways, Greece has always been the birthplace of rebirth itself. As the sun sets over the Aegean, construction lights flicker to life along the coast. The foundations of the Ellinikon glow against the water, a modern acropolis rising not for gods, but for a new generation of dreamers. It's taken Greece 20 years to reach this moment. 2 decades of planning, fighting, and rebuilding trust. But now, the cranes are moving, the walls are rising, and the impossible is becoming reality. Because sometimes, the greatest cities aren't born in times of wealth. They're forged in crisis, by nations that refuse to stay down. And for Athens, this is just the beginning. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the rise of modern Athens, make sure to subscribe, because the next story is even bigger. The future is being built right now, and you don't want to miss it.